Before you book your next cruise, stop and listen to me for a second. I spent 15 years automatically clicking the balcony option every single time I booked a sailing. 15 years. And then on one cruise, a Caribbean sailing I'll get to in a minute, something happened that completely changed the way I think about cabin selection after 60. It cost me real money to learn this. It cost me real comfort. And I almost didn't make the switch even after I figured it out, because the cruise industry has trained us to believe one thing about balconies that honestly is not true for most older travelers. So today, I'm telling you the cabin type I book now instead, and why I'd genuinely rather sail in a windowless interior than pay another $2,000 for a balcony I barely used. Hi there, I'm Margaret, Senior Cruising. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, I've personally sailed over 40 cruises, mostly after the age of 55, and these days I spend a lot of my time helping other travelers in our age bracket make smarter decisions with their cruise dollars. This one's been on my list to talk about for a while. Before I get into it, if you find this helpful, informative, or even just a little eye-opening, please tap that thumbs up. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people our age. And subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, let's get into it. So here's what happened. 2 years ago, I was on a 7-night Western Caribbean sailing on the Norwegian Bliss. I'd paid, and I remember the exact number because it stung, $2,400 more than the interior cabin price for a midship balcony on deck 11. Beautiful cabin, beautiful balcony, beautiful view. And do you want to know how many hours I actually spent on that balcony over 7 nights? Roughly 4, maybe 5. That's it. 5 hours of balcony time at $480 per hour. I did the math on the airport shuttle home and I sat there with my coffee and I felt genuinely foolish. Because the truth is, between port days, dinner reservations, shows, trivia, the spa, and just being tired by 9 p.m., I almost never actually used that balcony. The 2 times I did sit out there with my book, I got either sun-blasted or wind-blasted within 20 minutes and went back inside. And one of those times, I want to mention this because it's relevant. The cabin next door had a couple who clearly didn't realize how much sound carries between balconies. They were having a tense conversation, not yelling, just talking, and I could hear every word as clearly as if they were sitting next to me. That's the other thing nobody tells you about balconies. The privacy is an illusion. And here's the part nobody talks about. I'm 63 now. My knees aren't what they used to be. That little balcony threshold, the lip of metal you have to step over to get outside, actually became a tripping hazard for me at night. I caught my toe on it once getting back inside in the dark. Didn't fall, but I came close. And I'll be honest, that was the moment that really did it. Because when you're in your 60s or 70s, a fall on a cruise ship is not a minor inconvenience. It's a medical evacuation off the ship in the next port. It's an interrupted trip. It's potentially weeks of recovery. The risk-reward on a balcony for me, personally, stopped making sense after that. That cruise was the last balcony I ever booked. Number 1, and I want to be specific here because this matters. I now exclusively book what's called a large ocean view cabin, ideally on a lower deck, midship, with a fixed picture window, not a porthole, a proper window, and not the type that opens. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Margaret, an ocean view is a downgrade. That's what I thought too. For years, I treated ocean views as the cabin you book when you can't afford a balcony. And honestly, I'm changing my mind on this publicly because 3 years ago I would have laughed at the idea. But here's the thing. A large ocean view on a ship like the Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas, or the Celebrity Apex, or several of the Princess Sky class ships gives you almost the exact same square footage as a balcony cabin. Same bed, same bathroom, same closet. The only difference is the wall has glass instead of a sliding door. And on the most recent Apex sailing I did, that ocean view saved me $1,800 compared to the equivalent balcony. $1,800. That's a shore excursion in every port. That's a specialty dining package. That's almost a third of my next cruise. Number 2, and this is the part the cruise lines really don't talk about. The vestibular system, your inner ear balance, changes as you age. Most of us notice it somewhere in our late 50s. And what I didn't realize until a physical therapist mentioned it offhand last year is that sleeping in a cabin with a sliding glass door, even closed, exposes you to more subtle vibration and more temperature fluctuation than a fully sealed ocean view cabin. I sleep noticeably better in ocean view cabins now. I genuinely do. And I didn't believe it until I had 2 back-to-back cruises, 1 balcony, 1 ocean view, and the difference was so obvious I started paying attention. That's not a scientific claim. I want to be honest about that. There's no peer-reviewed study I can point you to that says ocean view cabins help older travelers sleep better. What I can tell you is that anecdotally, in our community of about 4,000 cruisers over 55, when I asked this question last spring, almost 60% of the people who'd switched from balconies to ocean views after 60 said sleep quality was the reason they didn't go back. Let me know in the comments if you've noticed something similar. I'm genuinely curious whether this is just me and a handful of people, or whether it's a real pattern. Before I go on, I want to mention something, because I know the next question is going to be, but Margaret, what about claustrophobia? What about feeling closed in? And the answer is, I felt that exact concern, so I want to address it before I move on to the rest of the items. A large ocean view cabin with a real picture window does not feel closed in. It feels like a hotel room with a great view. The window is usually 4 to 6 feet wide. You see the ocean. You see the light change throughout the day. What you don't get is the noise of wind, the smell of diesel from certain decks, and the temperature swings. If the idea of an interior cabin scares you, fine, don't book one. But please don't write off ocean views. They are, in my opinion, the single most underrated cabin category on modern cruise ships. Number 3, deck choice matters more than it used to. I used to book deck 11, deck 12, the higher the better because, why not? Better views. After 60, I do the opposite. I book deck 5, deck 6, deck 7, lower midship. Here's why. Motion is significantly less pronounced lower and more central. If you've ever felt that subtle rocking sensation at night that wakes you up at 3 a.m., that's almost gone on lower decks. On a recent Holland America Eurodam sailing through a slightly rough patch in the Gulf of Alaska, my friend up on deck 9 said she barely slept. I was on deck 5. I slept like a baby. Plus, and this is the part nobody mentions, lower decks mean shorter walks to the dining room, shorter elevator waits, and easier access to the gangway and ports. After a long day in Cozumel or Mykonos, the difference between walking back to deck 5 versus waiting 8 minutes for an elevator to deck 12 is not nothing. Number 4, specific things to ask for. When I call my travel agent now, and yes, I still use a travel agent at this age, and I'd encourage anyone over 60 to do the same, I ask for these specific features: ocean view cabin, midship, deck 5 through 7, picture window, not a porthole. And critically, I check the deck plan myself to make sure the cabin isn't directly under the pool deck, the buffet, or the nightclub. Because here's something most people don't know. Cabins directly under the main pool deck experience early morning chair dragging at 5:30 a.m. when the crew sets up the loungers. It's loud. It's metallic. It will wake you up. Every single morning. Real talk. I learned that one on the Carnival Mardi Gras, and I will never forget it. Same goes for cabins directly above the theater or the main dining room. Sound carries through ship floors more than you'd think. Midship on a low passenger deck, sandwiched between other cabins, not below or above an entertainment venue, is the sweet spot. And one more thing, check the deck plan for what's called a service area, crew elevators, laundry rooms, ice machines. Cabins next to those tend to have foot traffic at hours you don't want foot traffic. The deck plan will show you. Look for it before you book. Number 5. Now, I want to be fair. There is one situation where I'd still book a balcony. Alaska. Long Alaska sailings, specifically the Inside Passage, where you're cruising scenic glaciers and fjords for hours at a time, and the wildlife sightings happen unpredictably. In that case, yes, the balcony earns its price. You're using it for hours per day, not minutes. But for the Caribbean, for the Mediterranean, for the Mexican Riviera, for Bermuda, in my honest opinion, and some people are going to disagree with me on this, the balcony is a luxury tax, not a value upgrade. That's my opinion. I could be wrong on certain itineraries. Tell me in the comments where you think a balcony genuinely earns its cost. I read every comment on this channel and I learn from you all the time. Number 6. The thing I wish I'd done 15 years ago. Before you book a balcony, actually sit down and calculate how many hours you realistically spent on the balcony on your last cruise. Be honest with yourself. Not the fantasy version where you imagine yourself sipping coffee at sunrise every morning. The real version, where you got home at midnight from a show, slept until 8, ran to breakfast, did a shore excursion, came back exhausted, napped, got ready for dinner, did a show, went to bed. Where in that day did the balcony fit? If your answer is honestly 2 hours or more per day, book the balcony. You'll use it. You'll love it. If your answer is closer to 30 minutes, and for most of us in our 60s and 70s it is, book the ocean view. Take the savings and put it into a better excursion in your favorite port, or a spa treatment, or a specialty restaurant, or just into your next cruise. That's the math. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. Number 7, and this surprised even me, the cabin steward situation. On most major cruise lines, balcony cabins now require you to physically request twice daily service. Ocean view cabins still get the standard turn down automatically on many lines, including Holland America and Princess. Small difference. But when you're tired and just want your bed turned down at night without having to fill out a card, it matters. I noticed this on my last Princess Sky sailing. The ocean view travelers on my deck were getting service that the balcony travelers above us weren't, just because of how the new opt-in policy is structured. Nobody talks about that. Now I do. Number 8. Something I genuinely did not know until 2 years ago. Balcony cabins are harder to keep at a consistent temperature than ocean view cabins. This is just basic physics. A sliding glass door, no matter how good the seal, leaks more heat and cold than a solid wall with a sealed picture window. In the Caribbean, this means your air conditioning runs harder and the cabin is often uncomfortably cool because the thermostat is fighting the sun coming through the glass. In Alaska, it's the opposite. Cold leaks in. You wake up at 4 a.m. cold. In an ocean view cabin, the temperature stays remarkably stable. I have not once had a temperature complaint in an ocean view. I've had temperature complaints in nearly every balcony I've ever booked. That's not a coincidence. It's the cabin design. So if a friend called me tomorrow, 65 years old, planning her first cruise in 5 years, asking me whether to book a balcony or an ocean view, I'd tell her exactly what I'm telling you. Skip the balcony. Book the large ocean view, midship, deck 5 through 7, picture window. Save the $1,800 to $2,400. Spend it on something you'll actually use. And if she came back after the cruise and told me she wished she'd had a balcony, fine. Next time, book the balcony. But I'd bet you almost anything she comes back and says, "Margaret, you were right. I didn't miss it for a single moment." That's the cabin type that genuinely changed everything for me. Not because it's fancier, because it's smarter for the way we actually cruise after 60. All right, quick question for you before I wrap up. What's the most expensive cabin upgrade you've ever paid for and felt like it wasn't worth it? I genuinely want to know. Drop it in the comments below. I read all of them, and I'll probably make a whole video responding to the best stories. If you found this helpful, hit that thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow. And next week, I'm publishing a video on the 3 cruise lines I think are quietly becoming the best options for travelers over 60 in 2026.